Hello, my name is Charles Horton. You know me, Chuck. I'm the chair of Disability Pride Philadelphia, and today we have Drew Techner from Selective Service System, who is going to give us some education about what the Selective Services is and how it works and how it really benefits our community, the disability community as a whole, and why we need to be a part of it and why we just need to know more. And knowledge is power, and we need all of the power we have, and we want to empower ourselves to have access to all things that are out there for us to make our lives better. So with that, Drew, just give us an overview of who you are and what is the Selective Service System?
Well, hi, Chuck. And of course, you are one of our local board members with the Selective Service System.
Thank you.
So you're actually a part of us. You're actually one of our newest board members, and we're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
I'm a military service member. There's about 150 of us nationwide that represent every branch of the military. I'm actually from the Army Reserve. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I've been assigned to the Selective Service System for a very long time. What my job is to train local board members. Local board members, such as yourself, are volunteers from the community that in the event of a military draft, local board members would sit on local boards in the community and they would make determinations on claims that were made by young men aged 18 to 25 years old. What I also do is I assist in registration of young men so they don't lose their benefits, and they also comply with federal law. In the event of a draft, I would open up an area office in the community.
Great. And so when you open up, so you talked about if there is a draft, how does it work?
Well, the way it works is like this, Chuck. Currently, our nation relies on all volunteer force. There hasn't been a draft since the end of the Vietnam War, since 1973. Registration of young men, which is the federal law, however, must continue as the key component of our national security strategy. Our agency provides our nation with a structure and a system for the most prompt, efficient, and equitable draft as possible. And the way it works is like this. In the event of a national emergency where the Department of Defense requires additional force strength, Congress would authorize the president to induct personnel from the armed forces. Now, one of the common misconceptions is that men are not automatically inducted into the military. There's a process. And the Selective Service System is the federal agency which handles this. Men, in the event of a draft, men would be called by random lottery and also year of birth. They then would go and be examined for physical and mental fitness, and area offices would open, and then local boards would begin the work of processing claims. That's where you would come in.
Okay. And if a person was drafted, could they pick the division of the military that they would serve with?
A young man can contact their armed forces local recruiting office. If they're interested in a specific branch of service, so if they're interested in the Army, they would seek out their Army recruiting office. That would be the best way. In this way, they would be volunteering for military service. However, if they're selected for induction, no, the Selective Service System, that's not part of the process where they would pick their own branch of military service.
Now, you said that a young man has to register. Women don't have to register for Selective Service?
No, not at this time. Military Selective Service Act, which is the federal law which creates the agency, the Selective Service System, which also creates the requirement for all men to register. That's the way the law is currently written. For women to be required to register, Congress would have to amend the law.
Okay. Now, if a person was drafted, how long do they have to serve?
24 months.
Okay. And I know that a lot of things have changed in the process of the draft. And I know in the past it may have been if you were the youngest male child or the only male child in the family. Does that still apply? Can that person be drafted?
Regardless of that status, whether they're the only son or the last son that carry the family name or the sole surviving son, regardless, every young man aged 18 to 25, up until the time that they turn 26, they are required by federal law to register with the Selective Service System. They, these sons, these young men, could be drafted. There are classifications that we have that pertain to that area. However, usually it involves a military-related death, and that type of claim can be sought out once there is a actual draft and the young man has been selected for induction. At that time, every young man that's been selected for induction is provided a booklet, and the booklet has a list of all the classifications that they can make, including hardships and deferments.
Okay.
So until that time, nothing can be done because there is no current draft.
Okay. And you said that, could you explain like what is a natural catastrophe and where the draft might be like activated?
The way that the Military Selective Service Act is written, which is the federal law, it's in the event of a national emergency. The national emergency, this is not limited to an act of war from an adversary. It could also include a natural disaster. So it's broader in that sense. It's, however, that Congress, both Congress and the president, would have to deem that a draft is necessary based on a national emergency.
So it has to be agreed by both the president and Congress. They have to agree and before it can be implemented.
That's right, Chuck. And the way it works is that Congress would have to amend the current Military Selective Service Act to authorize the president to induct young men.
Okay. Now, how is a person deemed eligible or ineligible to serve or to be drafted?
Well, the young men would have to go through a series of examinations to determine if they were mentally, physically, and morally fit for military service. Only when selected by the Selective Service System would these young men be able to claim deferments such as a school deferment or ministry, a hardship of dependence, or conscientious objector. And if the claim's denied, the young man would have the opportunity to have their claim reviewed by a local draft board, which would be you.
Yeah. Could you just touch on those different deferments? Just give a quick like overview of what they would be, like how.
Well, a few of the key ones at the very top of the list is conscientious objector. That's somebody who's opposed to military service. That type of claim is highly subjective, and that would not be reviewed by administratively. It would be reviewed by a local draft board. So you're having volunteers from your community with varied backgrounds and varied sets of life experience. 5 people sit on a local draft board. So you would have a board review that claim. Now, in the case of a conscientious objector, the young man would be required to appear before the board. And the reason why is because the standard is the local draft board is looking for the sincerity
Okay.
of the person's claim. Now, some of the other claims would be hardship of dependence.
Okay.
So it's not you're fit for military service. However, there's a dependent in the young man's life that if the young man enters the military through induction, it would create some sort of hardship on behalf of one of their dependents.
Okay.
Also is ministerial exemption. So somebody who's a minister that's serving in the community, would this have an impact, the removal of the minister from the community? There's a ministerial student. So if you're studying to be a minister, and there's also student deferments. So if you have a young man who's a student and they have ongoing full-time college, that would be a student deferment.
Okay. So how does a person actually register for Selective Service?
Very good question. And thank you for asking that, because the best way to register is to go online at our website, which is www.sss.gov, G-O-V. By going to that website, it takes about 45 seconds to register. Once they register, they have that number, their Selective Service registration number. The young man can always go to that website, and so if they don't remember their number, and most people don't, they can go to the website and put their information in, and it would provide them their number. The way the law is, Chuck, is that all men are required within 30 days of their 18th birthday to register with the Selective Service system. That means 30 days before their 18th birthday, their 18th birthday, and 29 days afterwards. It's very important to do it, because when they don't do this, they're running a risk of losing a lot of opportunity. And the way we look at it is like this: 45 seconds to go on the internet to register could save a young man 45 years of aggravation. And I wanted to point out some of the things that they're at risk, that if they fail to comply with the federal law, and if they fail to register, some of the things that they could lose.
Okay.
Right off the bat would be federal benefits. Many of your federal benefits, specifically federal student financial aid. And also many states require registration with the Selective Service to provide state financial aid. Most federal employment and some state employment are dependent upon the male complying with the law and registering. Contractors for their security clearances, and job training, which is available under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And for immigrants, because immigrant men are required to register if they're between 18 to 25 years old. They run the risk of not gaining U.S. citizenship if they have failed to comply and register.
because I know that there are a lot of programs that support and people with disabilities through the government, and they're tied very closely to the Selective Service and applying and registering with the Selective Service. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to do this, because I know that a lot of people in our community, and it might be parents or individuals themselves, that might think that I will never be drafted because I have a disability, because I won't qualify. But it's still important for individuals with disabilities to apply, because I mean those same just to register, excuse me, because those same opportunities are available to us, even though we might not qualify to serve in the military. Those programs are still available to us, and that's
Now, I would make this very clear is that all young men 18 to 25 years old are required to register with the Selective Service system, uh, including the disabled. Uh, there is no master list of all the benefits and opportunities that are tied to complying with registration for the Selective Service system. Uh, it's just best to comply with the law and do it. I think one of the biggest myths is that somebody may think that they don't have to register for something that's going on in their life, perhaps disabled. They make an assumption, and we don't want to see misfortune. We want to see that just every young man aged 18 to 25 years old, make sure that they register. Now, the law says within 30 days of their 18th birthday, and that's the way it should be. However, currently, young men have up until the time that they turn 26. The minute that a young man turns 26 years old, now it's too late, and there is no waiver, and they're unable to register that late. And that's going to cause them, if they fail to register a young man, it's going to cause that young man a lot of hardship, most likely in their lives.
So is there any legal uh, penalties that if a person does not register?
There are the liability to failing to register with the Selective Service for young men is $250,000 fine and up to 5 years imprisonment. However, the federal government takes the approach of not prosecution, but registering. That's really what we want to see.
Mhm.
We want to see registration. We want to see young men get their benefits. There hasn't been prosecution for a very long time, not since the 1980s. However, these laws are still in the books, and the liability is still there. So that's not what the Selective Service system or agency, that's not what we're doing right now. We're focusing on registration.
Okay. Yeah, it is important. I'm glad you gave that timeline. So one of the things that is, I think we talked in the past, there was some issues like between 25 and 26 with the registering. Like, yeah, what is the issue with that? Like you have up to the age of 25, and then by the time you turn 26, there are some loopholes within that.
Well, no, there's no loophole. The
Yeah.
law is clear that
Yeah.
uh, if there was ever a draft
Mhm.
and the Selective Service system, uh, if there was a draft, the liability for a young man to be drafted is for the age group 18 to 25.
Okay.
We would never draft above the age of 25.
Okay.
That's why the registration is available for the young men up until the moment they turn 26 years old.
Okay.
Uh, so you have until the last day that you're 25 years old to comply with the federal law currently and register. But that's not really a good idea. It's best to, within 30 days that you're 18 years of age, register. And if you haven't done it, make sure that you go to our website, www.sss.gov, and just get it done.
Yeah. So, in your work, have you heard a lot of misrepresentation that you heard throughout the community or just any community about the draft?
Well, I think the biggest misperception is that by registering with the Selective Service system, that young men are automatically joining the military or agreeing to enter the military, and that's simply not true. By registering with the Selective Service system, they're ensuring that they've complied with the law, and they're also preserving their benefit to seek deferments and postponements in the event of a military draft.
Okay. Okay. And I know, what do you think is the best way that people can just like spread the word about the Selective Service?
Well, that's a great question because anyone can spread the word about the Selective Service. We appreciate it and we encourage it. By going to our website, by contacting us, we have information packets and data that we can provide to the public. If a parent is watching this, they can tell their male child or nephew to do this, to be sure to register. A teacher can tell their male students. In the past, we've reached out to guidance counselors in high schools to try to get that information out. A coach, a sports coach, can reach out to the male team members. This is what we do. So spreading the word, we can only do so much, and we like to partner with others. And we ask that everyone listening to this think about it for a moment and think about who they can pick up the phone or text or email and bring it to a young man's attention.
So would it be you that would be available to go, I guess, to schools or to reach out to just educate those individuals?
We are. We have gone to high schools and we've contacted the guidance counselors and the principals in the high schools. And that's something, Chuck, if you want to, we can talk further. If you have any organizations that you would like me to contact and reach out to, we do appreciate outreach.
Okay. And there are people like you in every city who actually do this, or every state they have somebody that actually do the same work you're doing.
There's about 150 reserve military members that are across the country. And what we do, like I said, is we actually recruit volunteers from the community. You were recruited, Chuck. And we recruit, but we also train.
Okay.
We train volunteers as to what the Military Selective Service Act is. And in the event of a draft, you would be a local board member and you would review some of the claims that young men, postponements, exemptions, and the various claims. But even in peacetime or in the event of peacetime, broadly stated, in the event where we don't have a national emergency that has required Congress to authorize a draft, you could still volunteer. You could still volunteer and get the word out, and you don't have to be a local draft board member to do that. You could be anybody doing that.
Okay, great. So is the I guess with the Selective Service itself, and you said there are volunteer opportunities because it's employment for people with disabilities very opportunities is low and sometimes very difficult. So does the Selective Service itself have? I know it has volunteer positions, but do they also have like paid positions for individuals?
Well, yes, and the Selective Service System is a small federal agency. It's and what we didn't cover was I wanted to make sure that you knew that the Selective Service is an independent federal agency, and it's not part of the Department of Defense. What we do is, or what our agency does, is to support national defense by providing manpower, untrained manpower in the event of a national emergency. That having been said, the Selective Service System, there is federal employment, and to locate any jobs that's available within the Selective Service System, you would visit usjobs.gov, www.usjobs.gov. The Selective Service System posts job openings at that website. And of course, the Selective Service System agency complies with all federal law, including those regarding disabilities.
Great. And one more time, one thing I wanted to ask you about the deferments. When a person might get a deferment that they might not want to be available to serve in the process of using a weapon, okay? But they also still have an opportunity to serve in different capacities. And there's different jobs or different ways that they can serve if they have been drafted. So could you talk about some of the different types of things that individuals can do if they've been drafted but don't actually use a weapon?
Well, that's the conscientious objector status.
Yes.
And normally, a conscientious objector who's opposed to all military service would still serve for 24 months in the alternative as an alternative service worker. That's part of the alternative service program. For those young men that have been granted conscientious objector status, but don't oppose all military service, there are certain areas in the military that they could serve. That would be something that is normally answered by Department of Defense. The first thing that would come to mind would be serving in a chaplain type role, a chaplain assistant. That's something I can get the answer, a more clear answer to you later, Chuck, and I can always send the information to you.
Okay. And is it anything that questions that you think I didn't cover, or anything that you feel like you might want to share?
Well, we covered a lot. We actually covered a lot of things here.
Okay.
The one thing about registration is a young man who's still in high school can actually pre-register as early as age 17 and 3 months. Now, the actual registration wouldn't occur until within 30 days of their 18th birthday. The reason why the Selective Service System allows for the pre-registration is you have a lot of young men that are high school students applying for federal student aid. That would allow them, when they're filling out the federal student aid form, to pre-register and get a selective service number so they can complete the federal student aid application.
Okay, great. So, Drew, I just want to thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing with our community what the selective service system is and how it can benefit us and how it can support us. And thank you for answering all the questions, and you've been really, really informative. And if our community want any more questions or have any, just need any more support or just have any ideas about this, they can reach out to us at Disability Pride, and we can share the information with you. And but I just want to thank you again for all your support and being very open and making sure our community knows what's happening out there.
Well, thanks, Chuck. And just remember, uh, the viewers can also go to our website, www.sss.gov, and they can contact our agency if they have any questions as well.
Great, great. So Drew, I thank you again, and have a great summer, and be safe with all of this pandemic stuff is going on, and um, you were great. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right. Thanks. All right, everyone. I hope y'all have a great day and enjoy yourself. Take care.